beginning, Magna Carta was not seen as the important document that it became. It's become so important that the U.S. Supreme Court has referred to it more than 200 times in its decision processes in 230 years. Why do you think that is?
I believe the Magna Carta is viewed as something so important because it really was the first step toward securing the freemen's rights, the basic citizens. It was signed by the 25 barons. It was, started by the 25 barons. But the addition of the freemen in the first article really stretched those rights to every single person. And even though they weren't necessarily enforced, it was the first idea of that. And that's what our government is founded on, is protecting everyone's rights.
I also believe that it's mentioned so much because it's part of America's political traditions. It was definitely part of the founders' education before they drafted our Constitution. And it's continued on its way kind of up in our society.
In 1994, Lord Justice Bingham actually said that the Magna Carta wasn't important based off what the people thought based off of what it said, but rather what the people thought it said, because people actually thought that the Magna Carta was talking about developing over a long period of time, because they basically looked at it as everything will continue to change and that it will continue to develop along as people gain more and more rights.
You mentioned the Bill of Rights as key repository of our rights. Yet James Madison argued against adopting a Bill of Rights, said it wasn't necessary. And in fact, several of the proposed rights amendments in the first instance were not approved by the rest of the Congress. Would we have lost any rights if the Bill of Rights had not been adopted as James Madison counseled?
Well, in order to combat that, what we did in the Bill of Rights was add the Ninth Amendment, which guarantees us some unalienable rights, like unwritten rights, so that this would combat James Madison's view of not having, there would be rights that would be retained when that happens.
The Ninth Amendment also allows us to continue to create amendments of rights as history progresses. So at the time today, we might not know what we all will think in the future that we need as rights, but because of the Ninth Amendment, we will be able to create them.
I believe that, going back to what you said about would we necessarily have those rights, many of the Federalists argued that the exclusion of a Bill of Rights wouldn't necessarily mean that we didn't have those rights. It was specifically listing rights that the government could potentially take from you, and that was dangerous in and of itself. So not having a Bill of Rights wouldn't necessarily take those rights away from you, it just wouldn't necessarily protect them.
And also in Federalist 84, they said that Bill of Rights are in their origin stipulations between kings and their subjects, just to go off.
Why is it important that a constitutional government establishes a way for their citizens to secure redress of their grievances?
Continuing with my thought earlier, it's kind of part of our political tradition. The colonists and the early Americans had seen many rights denied to them by England, such as the Administration of Justice Act and other things like that. And so, they were so fearful of having these rights taken away, they needed to secure them.
I believe to look back to Aristotle and notice his philosophy that the only form of government that is successful is one where the people is happy is something that definitely applies to this case. The people need to be happy with their government, they need to be happy in their society in order to have a government that functions well and provides for them. So we need to have a system in place where the people can petition the government and ask for the rights that they think that they need, that belong to them.
And also, you could argue that this could be seen when Thomas Jefferson included pursuit of happiness in the Declaration of Rights rather than property, because usually the Locking Trilogy was life, liberty, property, and he decided to put pursuit of happiness in instead.
I believe he meant to mention the Declaration of Rights.
Should the government guarantee our happiness? Is that a fundamental right?
The government itself cannot guarantee our happiness. Happiness is something that each individual finds themselves, and it's not something that's a straight, clear-cut equation to find. The government should try and make people happy by allowing them to do what they want to do without having the government run into anarchy. It's not something that the government can necessarily provide for the people. They should allow the people to try and find it as best they can.
Is there any implication in Magna Carta for us when we are unhappy?
In Article 61 of the original Magna Carta, there was the right to a revolution, and although that didn't necessarily happen, it did give people the power to kind of petition the government, and the fact that the Magna Carta was signed itself, even though King John was forced to, is a sign that the people were unhappy with this heavy taxation and with the situation that he was putting them in, and they were going to find this sort of happiness, not necessarily complete happiness, but they were going to get a better government out of this.
Can you trace any of the rights that you currently enjoy, that we currently enjoy, back to Magna Carta specifically?
Section 40 of Magna Carta states that no one will deny, that they will not deny, delay, or sell justice to anyone. And as we know, we have the 5th and 6th Amendment. Everyone is guaranteed due process, particularly shown through the 14th Amendment. So we have it today, yes.
And that's also mentioned in Article 39, as we said in our statement.
Thank you very much.